Ever since I first played Kentucky Route Zero, I've been trying to find a way to talk about it. If you played it, you know it's hard to describe. Mechanically, at a first glance, it seems to be a point and click adventure game, similar to those classic ones made by LucasArts.
Are glad to be dead, right?
Oh, yes, sir. I feel so lucky that you happened to capture my ship and murdered me and everyone on board.
However, this doesn't really fully capture the multitude of formats and genres woven into this tapestry. For people just casually encountering the game and discussions of it, it might seem pretentious. Honestly, talking about this game on YouTube is practically a rite of passage for bearded video essayists. But the developers, known as Cardboard Computer, are artists first. They use this game as a canvas to paint their masterpiece, launching an extremely humble Kickstarter back in 2011, almost a decade before the full game would be finished. If you haven't played it, go play it now. If that doesn't convince you, let me try to sell you on it with one of the best quotes from a video game review I've ever heard, from Laura Hudson at Wired.
Imagine for a moment that the next great American novel was created in the 21st century as a point-and-click adventure game. Imagine that it is a tragic ghost story about the American dream, where the ghost is the American dream. The tragedy is that it keeps haunting America because it doesn't know it's dead.
If you watch my Where the Water Tastes Like Wine video, all 204 of you, you know me, and you know there hasn't been a more Sean game ever created. Kentucky Route Zero is about a truck driver named Conway, who is about to make his last antique delivery to the mysterious Five Dogwood Lane. Across his journey, he meets a TV repairwoman, an orphan boy, his evil brother, and a pair of android musicians. I bought the game back in 2017 when only 4 of the game's 5 acts were out. Actually, I had done it as part of a big charity Humble Bundle game developers did during the Trump administration 1.0's first of many attempts at doing a Muslim ban that supported the ACLU. I'd seen a Let's Play of it years ago, though, but I can't seem to find it now. So maybe I just dreamed it.
1990.
That tends to happen with this game.
Spaghetti.
The diorama-esque visuals drew me in. I played it a bit and dropped it, thinking about it occasionally. One of those games that sticks with you and causes you to reflect on it on your daily life. It took me 3 years, when I was deep in a depression in the middle of the pandemic, to be in the right mood, with enough time on my hands to give the game enough time and space to play. I would spend sleepy Sundays curled up with my laptop and just drift away. Sort of like treating it like snuggling up with a good book. The rhythm of the writing, the hum of the truck, and the choir of the crickets lulled me to comforting sleep. Seems like I'm not the only one. In doing research for this video, I found several YouTube videos of just the ambient sounds. Many of the comments on these videos thank the uploader for soothing their troubled minds. This story is a tragedy, but I just wanted to be there on the Zero with these characters, not stuck quarantined in my cold, lonely room. Sometimes I'd walk to a spot in the game and just stand there, letting the visuals and sounds envelop me completely. While the surreal Lynchian dioramas and the lyricism of Steinbeck automatically evoke a cultural analysis of Americana, it is the very detailed soundscape that transforms the game from a ghost story into a living history. What makes up the haunting of rural Kentucky? It's built on 3 distinct layers of sound: the diegetic, the original, and the traditional. First, the diegetic sounds, the hum of the truck, the hisses and crackles of cassette tapes, the unmistakable acoustic hollowness of being on a boat at night. Great sound design like this puts you in the exact physical space that Conway, Marquez, and friends trek through. These sounds are realistic. When you hear a metallic clink, you instantly accept it, because Of course, that's what robot musicians sound like when they walk. And this is what my dog Stella sounds like when she walks about. I don't know why she makes that sound, it just happens. This grounding serves as a juxtaposition to the fantastical elements, making the big magical motions feel more significant. The second layer is the original music by the composer Ben Babbitt. Tracks like the ones playing at the Echo River Central Exchange drift along dreamily with mournful guitars that feel half-remembered. When the music swells, it feels as if a wave is about to crash on you. This music also has a practical sense. It almost seems to be in tune with the appearance of words. So it kind of guides your eyes. Your reading starts to also have a rhythm with the music in the poetic language. In the Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces, synths and organs layer with environmental drones to create a sonic architecture built purely for reflection. It feels like music of our time, taking influences from the past but using new technology. Just like the Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces moving into this former church and converting it into an office space. The music in Act 5, once the crew climbs out of the silo of late reflections to a town independent of the power company, becomes more vibrant and natural. It feels like the serenity and reflection you feel when you're standing amongst the trees. At peace. The sound shimmers. You could feel more natural items like the wind, crickets, and such. The strings that are strung have more of a rhythm. They're not just plucked. There is joy, a stark contrast to the melancholy of the zero. But it's the third layer, the traditional folk songs that pierce the heart and are in almost every video essay on the game, including this one. I couldn't help it, really. And while I will be focusing on the music of the game, I will be discussing how it enhances the themes. And really to do that, I have to talk about the plot. I do think people who haven't played the game will find this essay interesting, as I do talk about the history of these folk songs, and I will play some different versions of them. Let's talk about the Bedquilt Ramblers. In the game, they're a ghostly musical Greek chorus. In reality, they're brought to life by the game composer Ben Babbitt along Chicago musicians Emily Cross and Bob Buckstaff. In a traditional tragedy, the Greek chorus observes and comments on the action. Here, the Ramblers stand on the edge of the frame like observers from another time and place. They occupy a liminal space.
In a frightening liminal space between states of being.
Outside of time, popping up randomly to be pretty spooky. Yet, they are very much characters in the plot. Their performances are very dry, focusing mainly on the lyrics and emotions in the moment. The strings are very sparse, guitars are plucked very slowly. There is lots of reverb. One of the songs is played in a cavern and full of echoes. They perform what I call the music of the forgotten. By placing these 100-year-old songs from diverse origins into a surreal non-place, the game suggests that while people disappear into debt or death, their history remains suspended in the air. These songs carry centuries of history, histories of migration, labor, and survival. And Kentucky Route Zero places those echoes directly into this world. Take, you've got to walk that lonesome valley.
It's for yourself. It's nobody here can walk it for you. You got to walk that valley for yourself.
I found an earlier reference to it in 1907's folk song of the American Negro, and the earliest recording is from 1925 by the Jenkins family. While some Protestant traditions try to spin this song as a pull yourself up by your bootstraps anthem, its actual adaptations are almost always involve a character coming to terms with their impending death.
Law is a human institution.
Nobody else can go there for you know.
It beautifully foreshadows Conway's fate. As Sandberg says, it's an outcry. And putting this at the very beginning of the game is really powerful. To say from the very beginning that reinforces that this is a tragedy. This is the first of the traditional songs in the game at the end of the first act. Then there is Long Journey Home, also known as $2 Bill, most famously recorded by the Monroe Brothers in 1936.
Like old horizon, surely is a train, surely is a train, boy, surely is a train. Like old horizon, and it surely is a train. I'm on my long journey home.
It's this song that etched the bluegrass tradition into history. And its history is a melting pot. It mixes the 19th century homeward bound ballads of Irish and Scottish immigrants with African American hymns. Even the staple of bluegrass, the banjo, originated from enslaved Africans and Caribbeans brought to America. To emphasize my point, for what is considered by lots of white America to be true American music would not exist without the contributions of enslaved peoples and immigrants. Actually, it was finally adopted by white people through the minstrel shows to mock African Americans. They adopted the banjo.
The roots of it for even several hundred years after and during slavery was happening, this instrument was only in the hands of black people. During the 16 or 1700s and by the 1800s, it was fully grasped in white culture. The blackface minstrelsy really took off as really popular, even into the 20th century. There's histories of minstrelsy that really spanned for large amounts of time until there were some other types of ways that white people started expressing themselves in the banjo. And starting in the late 1800s, the manufacturing and the production of the banjo started to be a thing.
People who were considered to be lesser by their oppressors. I guess that's what makes it truly American, being a mix of cultures. Bill Monroe once said that bluegrass is blues and jazz, and it has a high, lonesome sound. This song, Long Journey Home, represents the prodigal son archetype of the Great Depression. Men leaving home to find work, failing, and returning only with a $2 bill. It is a perfect mirror for Conway's transient journey. But the most striking inclusion is What Would You Give in Exchange for Your Soul? Copyrighted in 1912 and popularized by the Monroe Brothers, as we stated in the last song. This is a cornerstone of American gospel bluegrass. Rooted in Matthew 16:26, its original context was a stern tent revival warning. Question of Christian ethics. What is the worth of eternal spirit compared to fleeting riches? But in the world of Kentucky Route Zero, soul takes on a secular horror. Here, your soul isn't just your spirit, it's your autonomy, your very limited time, your physical flesh and blood body. When we see the glowing skeletal workers at the Consolidated Power Company, you realize they didn't lose their souls to sin, they lost them to debt. They didn't exchange their souls for temporary gain, they were just living their lives, scraping by and getting taken advantage of. These people would likely work an eternity for a chance at freedom. When the Ramblers sing this to Conway, whose leg is slowly being replaced by a glowing skeletal limb, the game draws a direct line between the religion of the past and the corporate oligopoly of today. This leads directly into This World Is Not My Home, with roots as an anonymous African-American spiritual. Spirituals were 19th century folk hymns. Most of them were field songs made by enslaved African-Americans. Fun fact, the song we now know as Kumbaya comes from this tradition. Originating as Come By Here, the song was published in the Joyful Meeting in Glory Songbook #1 in 1919. When we hear This World Is Not My Home, we realize Conway has become inured to a life of hardship. He's just passing through a world that has priced him out, an overdose of a lifetime of sorrow and regret. He allows himself to be taken by the distillery boys so that he could clock into a shift that he could never clock out of. When the Ramblers play this song, you are in control of Shannon Marquez, distraught over the loss of her friend, companion, a friend that she had just met that night, but a friend nonetheless. You, the player, are shocked at the loss of the character you started the game off with, but really barely inhabited. Despite these songs being hymns, they aren't meant by Cardboard Computer to reinforce religion, but rather analyze a religion's place in America as a comfort for the downtrodden. You do come across a church in the game, but strikingly, the congregation has been evicted. The Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces now occupies the building. You can now find what remains of the church in the random access self-storage, visited only by a janitor who plays tapes of sermons to an empty congregation. Another church has been taken over by a distillery owned by the power company. This loss of community is tragic. I think the vampire Remick from Sinners puts it well.
Long ago, the man who stole my father's land forced these words upon us. I hated those men, but the words still bring me comfort.
These songs evoke the tall tales of America, almost saying through its surreal mysticisms that the histories of these people are the actual ghosts haunting the narrative. If the traditional songs represent the old world of Appalachia, Act 3 introduces us to the future. We meet musicians Junebug and Johnny, and get the performance of Too Late to Love You Now. As the roof of the Hard Times bar flies off and the stars appear, the music shifts from acoustic folk to shimmering synth pop. Here is the paradox. Even though the music sounds modern and electronic, the lyrics are pure folk tragedy meets Twin Peaks Roadhouse. You almost expect Julie Cruz to just glide on by. Furthermore, in a moment of brilliant interactive storytelling, you get to write the lyrics as the song plays. The sounds are big and sweeping, sustained by a circular rhythm line. You get to decide if the song is one of longing, the pain of loss, or a resignation to your fate. It's hard for you not to feel the emotions of the lyrics. Unlike the other choices you make in the game, these have the most impact, to me at least. Other than the folk music, these are the only words that we, the players, can hear in the game. These choices not just create a font that is displayed on the screen, but words sung tragically by Ben Babbitt. The singer, Junebug, is an android. She was built and programmed by the Power Corporation to only work as a miner. But she listened to a cassette left by the human miners that came before her, and through art, she broke free. The power company in this game feels cartoonishly evil in how ever-present and overreaching it is. But when you look at the history of company towns and what's happening right now with modern monopolies, it's not really a cartoon at all. The performance was so popular that Ben Babbitt brought Junebug out one more time on the in-universe public access station WEP-TV in the most Kentucky Route Zero way possible. Cardboard Computer not only posted the performance, but uploaded a 360 video where you're in a hotel room watching the performance on TV. Ooh, nice dolphin. I'm not sure if this can be found in the game, and the original Bandcamp link is dead. Actually, wait. The track is literally on an in-universe EP for Junebug that Ben Babbitt released. All this brings us to Hauntology, a concept coined by the cultural theorist Mark Fisher. It is the idea that our present is haunted by lost futures. Futures that were promised to us, but never happened. In Kentucky Route Zero, the music is a constant reminder of what was promised, what was owed, and ultimately what was lost. Lost loves of future, really. This reference isn't something I pulled out of nowhere. The developers have mentioned Mark Fisher's works multiple times in various places. Ben Babbitt, the composer, quotes in one post that the game is about what Mark Fisher called the cancellation of the future. This is most apparent in the song Too Late to Love You, where the singer reminisces on a past relationship and how what happened in the past keeps her from a future of loving her previous lover. Our present is haunted not just by the past, by the futures that were promised and never arrived. We live in the wreckage of foreclosed possibilities. And culture, rather than imagining new futures, keeps circling back, sampling, referencing, restaging the sounds and styles of eras when the future still felt open. The cancellation of the future has consequences for the natural flow of time, now erratic, unpredictable, out of joint. So we see art and culture from many times coexisting in a murky now. It is the sound of people realizing that the dream was a ghost long before they were. By being so hyper-specific to the soil of Kentucky, the game paradoxically becomes universal. It isn't just a story about a truck driver. It's a story about the systems that exhaust us all until we have nothing left but our songs. The game ends with the hymn, I'm Going That Way, written in 1922. It ends with the community deciding to come together, to sing in the mud, deciding despite everything to stay and rebuild. Acknowledging the people who were in this land before, the people immigrating to this country, and looking to those who will come in the future. Music is the only thing that can bridge the gap between the living, the dead, and the lost characters of the root. It's a comfort for the downtrodden that suggests we are part of a long, lonesome line of people who have been here before, and a line of people who will be here long after we're gone. The song begins with only Emily Cross singing a dirge for two horses, affectionately named the neighbors, who drowned in the previous night's flood.
Where all who believe the Savior dear forever shall stay. And having been saved by grace divine.
Slowly, her solitary voice is joined by the immediate community, and eventually, the ghosts, the presence of every person who lived in the town, from the original settlers of Un Pueblo de Nada to its current transient residents. Depending on how you write your ending, just like the Greek tragedies of yore, this story can finish with a glimmer of hope. Hope, love, and a quiet faith in the communities that actually make up this country. By playing the game's co-op mode with your chosen community, you are saying that we are all haunted by the past, but we're choosing to write whether this will be a message of despair or hope, a story of the transient, or those who choose to stay. To borrow a thought from video essayist Ian Danskin, the belief that things will get better is an act of faith. But the idea that things will never get better is also an act of faith. So something as little as belief is an action, it's a choice. Kentucky Route Zero uses sound to remind us that America is an echo of past dreams, broken promises, and futures that never arrived. But as long as the songs are still being sung, any belief is still in action. That community still meets, those dreams aren't quite dead yet.
In glory at last. Oh, I believe that when we meet, well done, he'll say. While trusting the soul redeemed in love, I'm going that way. I'm going that way. I'm going that way. Yes, dear, the Savior I adore is with me each day. I'm clinging to him and never to stray. Just singing praises all
thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, please share it with somebody you hold close in community. This video took a very long time to make, and I was really passionate to make it. It's something that I've really wanted to make since I played the game back in 2020. So I really appreciate everybody who came and watched this. I would like to shout out my wife, Erin, who was very instrumental in making this video. We went through many revisions of the script, and she suggested ways to A, make what to focus on, and B, jokes that I can make, because the first draft of this didn't have any jokes. She's also very instrumental in a lot of the other videos that I made on this channel, and she tells me a lot of times what's shit and not. So I would like to shout her out and say thank you. Kentucky Route Zero is a very rich text, just like a lot of the great American novels. So please do let me know if you would like for me to focus on other aspects of the game as well. There's a lot to go over. But if you would like for me to overanalyze something else, do let me know that as well. And until next time, if you can, please do something nice for someone. Bye. Goodbye. Bye. Have a nice day. Take care until next time. Arrivederci.
Imagine for a moment that the next great American novel was created in the 21st century as a point-and-click adventure game. Imagine that it is a tragic ghost story about the American dream, where the ghost is the American dream. The tragedy is that it keeps hunting America because it doesn't know it's dead.
You like that one?
Yeah, that was perfect.
I can do it for real.